right. So, hey, this. I'm super excited about this one. This is the follow-up. So we did an interview with Brother Joe, and he was speaking about what it was like on the border over when he was there for Christmas break. And now we have Brother David, who's there right now. So welcome, brother. How are you?
Greetings to all of you there in New York State and from Arizona. We're in the southeast corner of Arizona, Cochise County. We're about 25 miles north of the Mexican border.
And so I guess just what do you do there? I mean, so who are you? You're a brother, you're a Franciscan, obviously. So where do you stay?
Yeah, we have a house. We in some ways we kind of returned to El Frida, Arizona. We found this history out after we moved here that there was actually one of our friars came here in 1960, 61, 62 to establish a regular mass for the folks here, for the Catholic families here in this rural part of Arizona, and now we've returned. We've returned 60 years later.
Very cool. Very cool. So Brother Joe has been super, super impressed with all the work you're doing up there. And obviously there is nothing more political dynamite, I guess, if you will, than migration right now. And I think too often lost in that whole, and I will call it political discussion, is the fact that at the root of it all, there's people. And I think that the stories Joe has been telling since he got back, and I think the stories that I want people to hear is that, you know, whether we necessarily agree with everything that our government is doing or everything that, you know, the people are doing, if they're coming across, quote, illegally, at the bottom, at the end of the day, they're still people and they deserve our respect and love, etc. So I guess wanted to get my bias out of the way first. So from now on, whatever I say, that's my starting point. So, so what exactly do you do, and how do you help, and all of that? I would love to hear it.
Okay, yeah, I think you know we Franciscans were 800 years old and we're very international. So I think we often don't find ourselves on the humanity level of things. And so I think that's one of the things that's caused us to the border at this particular time. But one of the, I don't know if it's unique, but one of the major aspects of also our presence here is to deepen our contemplative prayer time. So what Joe's been doing there up in Mount Irenaeus and the friars up there, we're kind of compadres with that piece of our Franciscan lived reality. And I think it's especially important to have a deep contemplative space to come from when we're dealing with the situation that we're dealing right now with the border situation and the suffering humanity of our migrant brothers and sisters.
Yeah. So do you work primarily on the American side or the Mexican side, or both? Or
we do both. I would say what we're very familiar with is the Arizona situation. So we don't go as far. Yuma is as far west as you can go, and we don't deal directly with Yuma, but we do go 4 hours west of us in a border towns called Lukeville and Sonoita, and we are involved with helping a migrant shelter there on the Mexican side. And we collaborate with a group called Ajo Samaritans, who live just north of that border place there. So once a month, when things are normal, which they're not right now, when things are normal, we do a once a month 2-day trip to Ajo and put water out in the desert and then go check in on how the migrant shelter is doing. Over here where we are, we're close to the border towns of Douglas, Arizona, and Agua Prieta, Sonora, Mexico. And when things are normal, we'll go down once or twice a week and assist at the Migrant Resource Center there, just across the border on the Mexican side. And we assist the migrants who've been waiting for their turn to make asylum. But again, all bets are off right now, as you probably are aware. Things have really tightened up here. The last time we were actually across the border was 3.5 weeks ago. And what's happened is the asylum has just come to a dramatic halt. So all the people who were, for example, in Agua Prieta, on the average, one family a day would be invited to cross the border to the U.S. side to make their asylum appeal. That's come to a grinding halt. It was a different situation in Sonoita, 4 hours west of us, where only one family a week would be invited to come across into the U.S. to declare their asylum case. So right now everything is stopped. What we don't see in our areas is we don't see the tent cities that have formed, for example, in Juarez across from El Paso. and then also there's tent cities in Tijuana across from San Diego. But in the area we are, we don't see that. But a lot of the families have gone back, given up, or there's a few families remaining in the overnight shelter in Agua Prieta. About 35 folks are there, but they're not taking any new ones at this particular time. So it's just brought things to a dramatic halt after we've been down here 2.5 years. We're close friends with there's a community of school sisters in Notre Dame right in Douglas, and they've been here the whole decade. And they over that 10 years they've seen these kind of situations happen before, where something will just change dramatically for a while, and then sometimes gets back to a more normal. But we're not sure what's going to happen now. This is such a unique situation with the coronavirus.
So, I mean, I guess right now, since everything is on hold, I mean, and on both sides, what is there anything that we can do to help you, and also let me go a step further in the future? I know, and some of our listeners might not know, but about a month and a half ago or so, maybe 2 months ago now, I guess time flies, we packed, I think it was 350 some bags, little Ziploc bags of food and things, and sent down. Clearly a Band-Aid on a very massive problem, but better than no Band-Aid. Is there anything we could do, I mean, A, now, and then B, when things get more back to normal, to help you guys?
Well, if you're interested, we have groups all the time that come out this way, especially college-age people that come out and spend, a good part of a week to see for yourselves what the situation is and meet some of the people that have been directly involved. And the school sisters in Notre Dame, they specialize in that. And there's other groups that here along the border that also specialize in those kind of things. But we could be a part of that. We would love to. We have a facility with a dormitory just 3 blocks from us that's available to us, and so it's a little bit of roughing it. There's beds, but it's like it's a one big room, big dorm with about 12 beds, and then you got 3 bathrooms and showers. So it's doable, but there's no. We found out there's no air conditioning in the summertime, but we invite the people to join us for prayer if they're interested in that, to join us for the prayer, and then do different tours throughout the week, or throughout the long weekend too. It could be done along the border and meeting the different groups. It's very inspiring. There's some many very dedicated people, and even the community. I'll just tell you one quick story. What happened just over a year ago, when we had the large numbers of migrants coming through. And the people of Tucson, Arizona responded. There was a small group of people who were helping the migrants who were being released at the Greyhound bus station and with nowhere to go overnight, and they would take them in. Well, then when the numbers ramped up, they would normally be seeing 4 or 5 people a night. They were getting 20, 25, and it was beyond their capacity. So they called for a meeting at a Catholic church. And it was just so moving to be there for that at that moment, because 200 people showed up wanting to help. Wow. And that's when the Casa Elitas facility began, which eventually used a old Benedictine monastery, and they were able to do overnight in the peak times. They were hundreds of people a night. They peaked, I think, at 400 people a night, mostly from Central America, when things were really coming in with the large numbers, when the large numbers were coming in. But it was and to see how the whole city responded. Even city officials got in on the act. People bringing food, clothing, toys for the kids, all kinds of volunteers. It was a beautiful thing just to walk through that monastery to see how it was being used. It was a closed monastery, and how it was being reused for the migrants. And then when the new owner of the building finally had to repossess it, then the city of Tucson came up with the old juvenile detention center that they made it more homey, and that's what's being used to this day. But the seed of that was this small group, ecumenical group, that had founded Casa Elitas back in a couple of years back, and from that grew this wonderful action that was very inspiring.
Very cool. Is there anything, and I'm just literally, I guess, spitballing here. One thing I was thinking, and maybe it doesn't work at all, but if in lockdown or wherever people are, it might be if there is internet at these places, maybe English tutoring sessions or something like that we might, possibly think about doing without getting down there right now, because obviously travel is an impossibility.
Well, that would be a possibility if you have interest up there to try to organize something like that. All I know right now that the overnight shelter in Agua Prieta is called CAME, CAME, and there's about 35 migrants there, and they do have some internet access there. And I could find out for you if there's interest if something could be done along those lines.
Okay, that'd be wonderful. I just got a text message from one of our leaders who knew I was going to be talking, and I asked if there's any questions they had. One question they had was, if someone does come down with the virus along the border, is there any way to be tested, or do they really know what's going on, like medically, or is it just, I mean, what are conditions, medical conditions and things like that? I'm guessing not great, but I don't know.
I think that's right. If the question is about if migrants are tested, I think it's a situation all across the country. There's not enough testing, and right now in this county we are aware of 16 people who've got the virus, and nobody has died from our Cochise County. But just to give you some idea, the number in Tucson is in the hundreds, I think, of people who've got the virus. Yeah. But again, there's nowhere. Is there anywhere in the country that there's adequate testing? So that's
yeah.
So just so you know, we're in a lockdown situation. Like in our particular friary right now, we're not to have outside visitors come in to protect. One of our friars is 86 years old, so we're trying to be very cautious there. So, and this is a province-wide for our province is the Western U.S. and this is province-wide. We're not supposed to be even visiting other friaries right now because this is right. The virus is about to peak in this area.
Yeah, we're going through. We're in Western New York State, so we're far enough away that we haven't had the absolute awful situation they've had around New York City. But it's still, I think we had 34, 38, something like that right now in our county. And our county has about 75,000, 76,000 people. So, but who knows how many there are who haven't gotten tested. I guess a few other things I said, and again, whatever you want to say, go for it. I was trying to think, like, when someone does get officially, they come through legally, they get dropped off in wherever, is there anything, like, what do you do longer term besides the food, water right now? I mean, is there any training? Is there any assistance longer term to get people jobs or to get them settled? Or is there a group, or are there groups that do that?
In our situation here, like as I was explaining to you about the Casalitas facility, where they were actually in the hundreds overnight, that was like the temporary situation of getting them to their families or friends where they were gonna stay. So it was the main focus was getting their paperwork taken care of, making sure they had something for their 2 or 3 day bus trip, and getting all those arrangements made. Some people were going by airplane too, but most people were going by Greyhound bus. So it was just a very well organized. The place was humming and just full of life and goodness, and the people were moving elsewhere. So right now with the asylum situation. Before the clampdown, they would go to Casalitas, and then they would go through that same process. That they would fill out the paperwork, and then they would find their place where in the country they were going to go to wait out their completing the process. Gotcha.
Okay. And then, well, I mean, is there anything else before? I guess I have one other, and Joe has mentioned it a couple of times. We talked in his interview about it as well. The Just Coffee Co-op that he was so high end. Now, does that? Well, you tell me. I don't want to bias it one way or the other. Tell us a little about that and how it helps or doesn't help or whatever.
Yeah, it all helps. And let me tell you, I give you a few different examples of what's going on in Agua Prieta, so that including the Just Coffee. So the coffee beans are raised in Chiapas. They're shipped up to Agua Prieta where they're processed and roasted and grounded, and then they're sold mostly on the United States side. They do have a wonderful they have a Starbucks quality coffee shop in Agua Prieta. That's a really nice place to visit when you're here. But it creates jobs, and it supports the farmers who are growing the coffee beans in Chiapas. And a large number of people are able to make a go of it. So the idea was that you create jobs down in Mexico, so people don't have to migrate up to the north. But also there's a couple other projects that the School Sisters in Notre Dame are involved with in Agua Prieta. One's a woodworking shop for mostly for men who are migrants waiting for their turn to come across, and they use what do you call them, the pallets. They use pallets for making tables, chairs, beautiful work. And so that's one project going on. Then there's a women's co-op, which is primarily sewing carrying bags and aprons and so forth in very beautiful, colorful designs. And so that's two projects that they've got, and that's been going on for about 8 or 9 years.
One of the worst things to do in this whole business is to tell people how to run something from afar, but they might want to think about making masks right now. There's a lot of people.
That's a good point. Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
I'll spread that suggestion.
Yeah, I know. I was asked by 3 different people. So we are making masks up here, by the way, just so you know. Masks.
Oh, are you?
Yeah. So we're there's a couple of our volunteers that are helping to make them around. And actually we have, one of our projects is we call them warm snuggly blankets for anyone with cancer. So if you know anyone with cancer, let us know and we'll send the blanket down to them as well. But in it that we have a sewing machine. So last week we lent out the sewing machine to people who, it's just sitting in my office. I'm not getting used. So volunteers are using it this week to make,
excellent,
make masks for people. Yeah. So, and then they're working with another group as well that's making shields. They're 3D printers, and we have, they're pretty good. They're going out to essential workers from nursing homes to grocery stores and everyone, trying to get everyone covered up. So hopefully we reduce the spread. Yeah. So,
well, one of the things that I feel a real connection that we have is our Franciscan connection. And I think St. Bonaventure is so well known around the country, especially in Franciscan circles. This is a wonderful ministry to bring the Franciscan spirit alive in today's world, especially with young people who are college age. And so we really feel a strong connection. That was felt really strong, that connection from you all in that Franciscan spirit with the migrant packs that came our way. It was wonderful to finally receive them when the semi truck came in with a whole pallet full of migrant packs. So thank you again so much for that connection. It really means a lot.
So for the next time we do that, can you just describe how they get used then? So once you got
them,
I know
yes.
With the virus, things may have changed, but how regularly is it?
No. So right, we passed them out. We weren't able to pass them all out yet because of the virus situation. So we do have some in storage that but when the things calm down, we'll get them distributed. But we've given them to Samaritans. Samaritans puts water out into the desert. They've been doing it since 2002. So they've got better maps than the Border Patrol of the desert area where the migrants are walking, and they monitor it on a regular basis. So they know where the traffic is, and that's where they put the water, and they can tell by when they return back, in the half a week or a week back, if there's lots of water taken, then they replenish it. So they know where the real active migrant paths are at a particular moment. And so sometimes they'll put some canned food, and sometimes the migrant packs, they'll put them underneath a milk crate to protect them from the animals. But so some of those were left with Samaritans. We gave some to the migrants. And I don't think I told you this yet. So at the Kame shelter in Agua Prieta, where right now there's 35 folks there, mostly families, that they had their name on a list. And so the longer they waited at the Kame shelter, their names moved up the list. And then when they were next to be able to go across, they would move to what we called the tent, which was right on the border fence, right where the pedestrians go into the U.S. And so we would keep it when things were going faster, that we'd have 20 of the next 20 that were ready to go were in this tent right along the fence, and it was a very humble tent, But and then when it was slowing down, we lessened it to 10, and 10 migrants. And so the 10 migrants, there's no bathroom in the tent. So there's a place called the Migrant Resource Center 2.5 blocks away, where there's a bathroom and one shower. And so what we would do 3 times a day, we'd have volunteers go down to the tent. Does anybody want to come to use the bathroom, and escort them back and forth? And so I gave, over the course of a couple of weeks, we gave those migrant packs out to those families because they would get one meal a day, and and the kids would just be so delightful when they saw all the goodies that were in there. It was like a fantasy for them, I think, to see this. So it was such a joyful thing to give them out. And then we wanted to take them to the shelter in Sonoita, and there we had the Sonoita shelter was a situation where this was only the second year that shelter was open. And for the most part, it was 25 or 30 single men. They did have a smaller dorm for women and children, but hardly any ever came. But early last year, that's when the big numbers went way up. And we went from 25 or 30 to 50 to 70 to 80 to over 100 people. And so the building got overflowed. They started setting up tents on the empty lot in that property. And the goal was to try to get those migrant packs to those families, and we weren't able to do it before things got shut down. Okay. So right now this is where the fluidity is right now with the situation. So that one shelter is completely shut down. There's a guy that took it on upon himself, he and his wife, to take some of those families to their house, and I want to try to get some of those migrant packs where these families are right now. And then there's this other shelter that's mostly single men. This is all in Sonoita, which is 4 hours west of us. So I'm trying. That's my goal. I have about just over half of them that you get sent to us are still here in storage. And as soon as things open up, I want to get them to those families. And you should see when the kids see that kind of stuff, you'll see their eyes light up. Wow. It's like a fantasy for them to see. Those were I call those first class migrant packs you guys made. There's migrant packs and then there's migrant packs. Yours were first class all the way. So thank you so much for that. It was like overflowing with love. And don't forget about the people when they saw your notes, the people that were on the tent. When I gave them packs, they read those notes, and it meant so. I said, these are the university students in the United States who are praying for you, and it just meant so much. So thank you. It was really. Let me just say it this way: it was heartfelt, very heartfelt.
Oh, that's so great. That's wonderful. Well, if not before, again, because I don't know when we're going to be back together collectively, back on campus or anything like that with the virus. But if nothing else, we do a big welcome days in the fall, so in August, and we also do a work week for service week for Francis Week as well. So if nothing else if not before then. I will say now that one of our projects those times will be more packing for you guys.
Thank you, Jim.
Yep. Yeah. And again, I really do. I think, and I'm going to throw this out to anyone who's listening to this now. If you want to help with organizing a program to do tutoring or some adding some value that way online, I think that I know we have to get someone to say yes to it first, but I think that's a way we can add value. I mean, I would love, I'm going to say, yes, I want to come down there and I want to bring students, but realistically, we can do that maybe once a year, maybe once every other year or something, just distance-wise, travel-wise, cost-wise. But tutoring online or sending stuff is something we can do regularly. And I think that would be a great way to work with you guys. And also, just so you know, at Joe's urging, we got hold of the Just Coffee Co-op, and now Just Coffee is now sold in Olean, and we've had to reorder it 3 times so far. So we're not going through thousands of dollars of it by any stretch, but it is selling reasonably well. And this morning I actually had Just Coffee cocoa, which was really good. I had two cups of cocoa, so it was so good. Yes. So some things are coming even in absence of, or even with the presence of the virus and the absence of everyone being here. There is still some good going on through that was helping down there as well. So, yeah. Well, if there's anything else, I mean, I could talk for hours. I don't know how long you have, and I don't know how long the viewers will keep listening. But if there's anything you want to wrap up with, please, by all means. And I look forward to A, working with you again, and B, talking to you again.
What comes to my mind is, the blessing of St. Francis. May the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord let his face shine upon you, be gracious to you. May the Lord look upon you with kindness and grant you his peace. And may the Lord bless you all at St. Bonaventure University. In the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.